His was a naughty student, but with a great heart. His goodness costed him everything on that day, when his father was brutally murdered just because he stopped a bully. The bully was only son of a mafia boss, and they didn't just stop over there, but also got this student behind the bars, not realizing that when he will come out, he will be a beast ready for revenge. And he actually took the perfect revenge possible. Welcome back to Paramount Recaps. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. Park Sae-ro, he was initially a naughty student, often punished by his teacher to hold a bucket of water over his head. Despite this, he possessed a kind heart. In stark contrast, Jang Jun-won, a bully who terrorized his classmates, faced no consequences due to his status as the son of a powerful tycoon. Sae-ro-yi, witnessing this injustice, decided to intervene despite warnings from his friend, Oh Soo-ah, who cautioned him about the potential repercussions on his family. Ignoring her advice, Sae-ro-yi confronted Jun-won, lecturing him in front of their astonished classmates. Feeling humiliated, Jun-won continued his torment and challenged Sae-ro-yi to a fight. Just as they were about to engage, the teacher arrived. However, fearing the tycoon's influence, the teacher turned a blind eye to Jun-won's actions. Unable to contain his anger, Sae-ro-yi attacked Jun-won, unaware that his actions would endanger his entire family. Sae-ro-yi's father was working at Jang Di-hee's company. He was immediately summoned by the manager. Meanwhile, Sae-ro-yi was beaten with a stick by the vice principal, tormenting him miserably. Jang Jun-soo saw this, and the principal bowed his head to apologize to him. At this moment, Jang Di-hee brought Sae-ro-yi's father. Di-hee seemed to be a reasonable person. The president realized that Sae-ro-yi's father had worked for many years, so he didn't want to expel Sae-ro-yi from school or send him to prison. Sae-ro-yi's father felt extremely grateful, but the president forced Sae-ro-yi to kneel down and apologize to his son. Sae-ro-yi, an upright and stubborn person, found kneeling down and apologizing impossible. He said, "My father taught me never to lower my dignity." Hearing this, the president was extremely angry, but unexpectedly, Sae-ro-yi's father felt very happy. He said that he was very proud to have such an upright son. Hearing this, Jang Jun-won came up with a scary idea, and the chairman became even angrier. He immediately fired Sae-ro-yi's father. Sae-ro-yi was extremely sad because of what he had done. He clenched his fists, but couldn't do anything. The two went to the tavern and confided. His father said he was happy that Sae-ro-yi had grown up and said, "If we are upright, we have nothing to regret." The two drank happily, completely unaware that disaster had just begun. The next day, on the notice board, Sae-ro-yi was forced to drop out of school, and his father was unemployed. Sae-ro-yi's father used all his savings to open a restaurant. Oh Soo-ah often came here to eat with him. At this time, a big incident happened. Jang Jun-won also liked Soo-ah and flirted with her, but she liked Sae-ro-yi and didn't care about him. Jun-won had been very angry with Sae-ro-yi's family ever since that night. Sae-ro-yi's father was on a motorbike delivering food when Jun-won, driving a car, crashed from behind, causing him to fall down the mountain. Sae-ro-yi's father died on the spot. The only relative's death made Sae-ro-yi extremely miserable, especially since it was his father whom he loved and admired so much. While Sae-ro-yi was sad, the police suddenly announced that the perpetrator's side wanted to reconcile. Sae-ro-yi felt they were too disrespectful of human life. When Soo-ah picked up the pile of documents on the ground, she suddenly discovered a photo of Jun-won's car and remembered the license plate number. It was clear that the police and the tycoon had arranged for someone to confess on their behalf. Angry, Sae-ro-yi immediately went to look for Jun-won that night. It was raining, and Sae-ro-yi found Jun-won in the hospital garden. Jun-won saw Sae-ro-yi, startled, and fell to the ground. Sae-ro-yi vented all his hatred on this bad guy. To him, his father meant the whole world, but this cruel person took everything from him. Sae-ro-yi just beat Jun-won until he fainted, intending to use a rock to kill him. Soo-ah brought the police, who stopped him. They used guns to force Sae-ro-yi to put down the rock or else they would shoot. Seeing that Sae-ro-yi did not put down the stone, a policeman loaded a bullet and prepared to pull the trigger. Fortunately, in the crisis, Soo-ah stopped them. She advised Sae-ro-yi to calm down, saying his father father would be very sad to see him do that. Thinking of his father made Sae-ro-yi gradually regain his composure, and he dropped the stone. The police took back their guns, leaving only Sae-ro-yi suffering because he could not take revenge. After that incident, he was taken to prison. The president came to see Sae-ro-yi and said he would forgive him if he knelt down and apologized. Upon hearing this, Sae-ro-yi immediately became angry and said, "The person who needs to kneel is your son." When the president heard that, he immediately threatened, saying, "Let's see how miserable I will torture you." Through the lawyer, the president learned that Soo-ah is Sae-ro-yi's close friend, so he immediately called her to his house. Knowing that she did not have enough money for school, he wanted to bribe her to testify for his son. Soo-ah immediately asked how much money he could give. The chairman found it extremely interesting and laughed happily. Later, Jun-won appeared and regretfully wanted to turn himself in, but the chairman insisted he would not let him do this. He decided that Jun-won would be the one to inherit, and the heir cannot have a criminal record. Hearing this, Jun-won had to obey his father. To make his son more cruel, the president took him to a farm, caught a chicken, and asked Jun-won to kill it. The president forced his son to be more cruel because of the huge inheritance. Jun-won had to obey the order, and his father laughed savagely. The next day, Sae-ro-yi's trial took place. The court sentenced Sae-ro-yi to 3 years in prison for manslaughter. It turned out that the chairman had killed the person who confessed, and then blamed Sae-ro-yi. A police officer knew this and was very disgruntled, but unable to do anything. The police director was bribed and forced to keep his mouth shut. Sae-ro-yi's first day in prison, he was forced to kneel by the seniors, but he could only laugh loudly, confusing them. It turned out that the chairman had arranged for these prisoners to beat Sae-ro-yi. Soo-ah came to visit and saw Sae-ro-yi's bruised face. She felt regretful and immediately confessed everything. She said, "It was I who betrayed you to get money for school." Sae-ro-yi did not blame her at all. Before saying goodbye, he said that he really liked her and that when he gets out of prison, he will definitely find her. Soo-ah hoped that Sae-ro-yi would become very rich after being released from prison and at least be able to take revenge on that tycoon. The two said goodbye with a promise. Since then, Sae-ro-yi has always remembered their feud with the tycoon. 3 years flew by, and today marked Park Sae-ro-yi's release from prison. During his incarceration, he befriended a notorious gangster who left a lasting impression on him. The first thing Sae-ro-yi did upon his release was visit the pub where he last saw his father. Vowing to seek revenge, he meticulously gathered all information about the Janga group and Jang Jun-won. Following the address in a letter from Soo-ah, he headed to the bustling Itaewon Street, which was celebrating a festival. Amid the crowd, Soo-ah suddenly hugged him, leaving Sae-ro-yi both surprised and overjoyed. They went for a drink, and Soo-ah mentioned she would work for Jang Jun-won's family company. Sae-ro-yi didn't hold it against her and shared his plan to work on an ocean ship for 7 years. Despite the impending separation, Soo-ah felt a pang of sadness. The next day, Sae-ro-yi began his job on the ocean liner. 7 years passed swiftly. Soo-ah thrived at Janga Group and earned respect from the chairman. Despite Jang Jun-won's persistent advances, she remained loyal to Sae-ro-yi. After work, she hurried to Itaewon Street, where she and Sae-ro-yi had made a promise. There, after 7 years, Sae-ro-yi waited for her. Soo-ah was thrilled to see him and discovered that his dream of opening a restaurant had come true, named Danbam. The restaurant was opening that day, but despite the excitement, no customers arrived, and the high rent was worrisome. Nearby, at Itaewon High School, Jo Yi-seo was dealing with bullies. She live-streamed the encounter, quickly gaining online fame. However, the bully's parent confronted Yi-seo, but she managed to outwit and scare her off. Sae-ro-yi, unaware of the full story, intervened and demanded Yi-seo apologize. Yi-seo, defiant as ever, made a cheeky comment and ran off, showing her spirited nature. Meanwhile, at Janga Group, Jang Jun-won proposed opening a new pub in Itaewon, but Soo-ah opposed the plan. The chairman, finding the proposal flawed, tore it up and slapped Jun-won, assigning Itaewon's operations to Soo-ah. Jun-won, furious, confronted Soo-ah, who retaliated by revealing the chairman's illegitimate son, Yi-seo's friend. One day, Jun-won and Yi-seo went for a ride in Itaewon, but an abrupt stop caused Yi-seo to fall. Sae-ro-yi, nearby, rushed to help her. Recognizing her as the rebellious girl, Yi-seo's friend arrived, and Yi-seo hit him for his concern. Sae-ro-yi, intending pretending to scold Yeseo, suddenly fainted from exhaustion and was taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, the chairman ordered Soo-ah to sabotage Sae-ro-yi's restaurant, putting her in a moral dilemma. Yeseo later criticized Sae-ro-yi's outdated advertising methods and suggested using social media. Sae-ro-yi appreciated the advice and went to observe successful restaurants. Encountering Soo-ah, he confided in her about his struggles to attract customers. Later, Soo-ah noticed Yeseo and her underage friend at Danbam and called the police. Inside, Yeseo's friend behaved disrespectfully towards the staff, provoking Sae-ro-yi to defend them. An altercation ensued, and when the police arrived, they found minors at Danbam, leading to potential penalties. June 1, instructed by the chairman, appeared to mock Sae-ro-yi's misfortune. Sae-ro-yi, frustrated, confronted the police about their favoritism towards the wealthy, ultimately storming out. Yeseo followed him, concerned that a 2-month closure would bankrupt Danbam. Yeseo criticized Sae-ro-yi for being too straightforward and unwilling to bow his head, while Sae-ro-yi accused her of being someone who enjoys causing destruction. Their argument continued until Jang Jun-won stepped forward and provocatively mentioned how he had harmed Sae-ro-yi's father in the past. He attempted to incite Sae-ro-yi into attacking him, but Sae-ro-yi, having learned from past mistakes, managed to restrain himself despite Jun-won's arrogance. Sae-ro-yi then declared his intention to reopen the case of Jun-won stabbing his father, vowing to make him pay for his crimes. This declaration instilled fear in Jun-won and sparked Yeseo's interest in Sae-ro-yi. She resolved to do everything in her power to help him seek revenge. As a consequence of the altercation, Yeseo and Jun-won were punished by being made to run around the school and write 100 reports of self-criticism. However, Yeseo only drew a picture of Sae-ro-yi. Captivated by his resolve, she then turned to the internet, gathering all available information about the case from years ago. She passed by Sae-ro-yi's closed shop daily. Her curiosity piqued. A week later, during New Year's celebrations, Yeseo visited a bar to flaunt her new ID card, proving she was now 18. Despite being surrounded by friends and alcohol, her thoughts remained fixated on Sae-ro-yi, the man who had helped her. Meanwhile, Sae-ro-yi met Soo-ah at a familiar bar, unaware that she had been the one to report him to the police, resulting in the temporary closure of his restaurant. He almost confessed his love to her after they finished drinking. As Yeseo attempted to return home, she was pursued by a man who had been drinking with her earlier. He attempted to assault her, but she vehemently refused and threw a wad of money at him to make him leave. Insulted, he struck her, prompting a struggle that forced Yeseo to flee into a men's restroom where she encountered Sae-ro-yi again. Despite the awkward setting, Yeseo smiled at him. The man chasing her entered, falsely claiming to be her boyfriend, but Sae-ro-yi, seeing her injuries, sensed something was wrong. Yeseo asked for his help, and Sae-ro-yi immediately defended her, beating the man. The two then fled and ran into Soo-ah, who joined them in escaping. Yeseo found the experience exhilarating, and noticing Sae-ro-yi's concern for her, Soo-ah felt jealous. After parting ways, Yeseo invited Sae-ro-yi out for a drink to thank him for his help and offered to promote his restaurant on her Instagram. While Sae-ro-yi fetched water, Yeseo and Soo-ah engaged in a heated conversation. Soo-ah boasted that Sae-ro-yi had liked her for the past 10 years, to which Yeseo responded by admitting her own feelings for Sae-ro-yi. The tension escalated as they criticized each other, with Soo-ah revealing that Yeseo's actions had led to the restaurant's closure. Yeseo, clever as ever, questioned Soo-ah if she had informed the police, making Soo-ah feel guilty. Yeseo expressed disdain for Soo-ah's betrayal. Soo-ah confessed and challenged Yeseo, asserting that Sae-ro-yi would always favor her. When Sae-ro-yi returned, Soo-ah admitted to reporting him to the police, hoping he would forgive her. However, Sae-ro-yi felt disappointed. Embarrassed, Soo-ah left, leaving Sae-ro-yi and Yeseo to continue drinking. During their conversation, Yeseo identified several areas for improvement in the restaurant, from its decor to the staff and menu. As Sae-ro-yi became increasingly intoxicated, he confided in her, deepening Yeseo's admiration for him. Drunk, Sae-ro-yi attempted to stand but fell. Yeseo, realizing her feeling, helped him up and suddenly kissed him passionately. Unfortunately, the next morning, Yi woke up in the hospital with no memory of the kiss. Yiseo, meanwhile, confided in her mother about her feelings for Yi, expressing concern about his difficult circumstances and her own inability to distance herself. Her mother advised caution to avoid heartache. Conflicted, Yiseo decided to leave her feelings to chance, flipping a coin to decide if she should pursue her love for Yi. The coin landed on heads, but she chose to interpret it as tails, deciding to continue pursuing him. Excited, she rushed to Yi's pub and, upon seeing him, fell even more in love. Determined, she resolved to become the restaurant's manager and help him achieve his dream. Unexpectedly, Jang Jun-soo, the chairman's illegitimate son, also joined the restaurant, abandoned and mistreated by Jun-won's mother. Jun-soo had faced many hardships. Inspired by Yi's kindness, he sought to work for him. The small restaurant now had 5 staff members. Despite Yi's initial reluctance to hire a manager, Yiseo quickly pointed out the reasons behind the restaurant's failures: poor staff hygiene, an unappealing menu, and a lack of social media presence. She proposed solutions to these issues, earning Yi's admiration and securing her position as manager. Meanwhile, the chairman discovered that a female director had acquired a significant number of shares in the corporation, threatening his control. He confronted her, questioning her intention. At the same time, Yiseo began her renovations at Danbam, using her design skills to create a beautiful and inviting space. She leveraged her social media influence to promote the pub, attracting a large crowd. The restaurant thrived, with long lines of customers, much to the delight of the staff and the pride of Yi. However, Soo-ah, witnessing their success, felt furious. The following day, the chairman and Soo-ah walked through Itaewon Street. The chairman suggested Soo-ah marry his son, Jang Jun-won, but she despised him and ignored the suggestion. He then led her to Danbam, which was bustling with customers. He ordered her to sabotage the restaurant. Despite the restaurant's initial success, complaints soon arose about the food. The chef, Hyun-yi, was blamed for negligence. Yiseo demanded focused work and suggested firing Hyun-yi to prevent the restaurant's closure. Yi called the chef in to point out the problem, but he was kind, so he didn't fire her and suddenly doubled Hyun-yi's salary. Yi wanted her to try hard to be worthy of the money she received. At the same time, he gave a speech to strengthen everyone's spirit. Everyone should unite and strive together. Only Yiseo was a bit sad because Yi did not listen to her. The next morning, Yiseo accidentally met a group of friends who were bullies. They came here and wanted to strip to humiliate Yiseo. Fortunately, Jun-soo appeared in time, through an argument with her classmates. She admitted that she was the one who told the police to make them drink that day. Yiseo suddenly realized that she had mistakenly blamed Soo-ah, so she slapped this friend. The other friend rushed forward and was also accidentally slapped. The other friend saw that she was scared, so they quickly backed away. As expected, Yiseo was as stubborn as Yi. In the following days, Yiseo often came to check on Hyun-yi's dishes. Thanks to that, Hyun-yi also improved her cooking skills. Yi successfully resolved the internal conflict and brought the restaurant up. At the same time, at the pub, Soo-ah was sitting and remembering the president's words. He said which side Soo-ah wanted to join. It was so painful that she drank herself until she was drunk. On the way home, she accidentally met Yi and his group. Seeing that this was a private matter, everyone left. Only Yiseo stayed. Soo-ah, in a drunken state, confessed all her feeling. Soo-ah's sparkling eyes touched Yi's heart. The atmosphere suddenly became romantic. The two of them just went to kiss in front of Yiseo. When their lips were almost touching, Yiseo promptly used her hand to squeeze Soo-ah's mouth and push her away. After all, she wanted Yi's lips to remain intact. Soo-ah was embarrassed and immediately sobered, but because she wanted to tease Yiseo, she kept asking to go eat with Yi's group. Yi couldn't refuse, so he agreed, which made the whole group's atmosphere extremely uncomfortable, especially for Yiseo. Soo-ah said that the reason Jenga Group is successful is because they operate in the form of a restaurant chain. Moreover, it was the president who created the recipe. That is why they are so successful. Immediately, Yi expressed his wish. He said he would turn Danbam into a larger franchise chain than Junga Group. Hearing this, everyone was extremely excited. The whole group raised a glass to realize this dream. After drinking, Sua and Yiseo had a dramatic conversation in the restroom again. Yiseo said she had oppositional defiant disorder. She said she really liked Sairoyi, and if anyone got in her way, she would use any trick to destroy that person. Unexpectedly, Sua was not inferior. She declared that if she liked him, the two would fight to the end. On the other hand, at the office of the president of Junga Group, Sua said that Danbam Pub was very successful. They were so crowded because of Yiseo's management. She has a record high IC of 162. Sua also said that Sairoyi wants to become a franchise restaurant chain. When the president heard that, he was a little worried. He was afraid that Danbam would be a competitor to Jenga in the future. Danbam was getting more and more crowded. Yiseo planned to recruit more people to prepare to expand the restaurant. Instead of receiving a salary, she would receive a 20% commission. Unfortunately, Yiseo's mother knew that she had dropped out of college to work at a bar and was extremely angry. But Yiseo said that she already liked Sairoyi and that she wanted to strive for success even if she failed. The mother and daughter could not find a common voice. Yiseo had to say goodbye to her mother, then picked up her backpack and left home. While she was sad on the bridge, Sairoyi ran past. He knew that her mother had kicked her out for dropping out of college to work with him. Sairoyi was very grateful. At the same time, he also felt sorry for her. He comforted her in a very naive way, but that made Yiseo feel much happier. The two of them made a promise to help the store reach the culinary peak and become a franchise chain surpassing Jenga Group. The two of them stood on the bridge talking about the future until dawn. Because the restaurant was growing more and more, it needed to recruit more staff. Unexpectedly, candidates who came for interviews were all people who couldn't work. Later, a very pretty girl came to apply for a job. Seeing this girl, the employee and Sairoyi were very happy. Seeing this, Yiseo immediately refused to accept her, making the employee extremely disappointed. At the end of the interview, a black guy came to apply. His name was Tony, and he was Polish-Korean. Yiseo thought it was okay, so she accepted the job immediately. Because he wanted Danbam Pub to grow stronger, he called the television station to ask for an interview. Unexpectedly, they agreed to a recording session. When Sairoyi received this news, he was extremely happy. He accidentally revealed this to Sua. The two went for a walk together and talked a lot. Jang Jun-won saw this and was very jealous. He went home to report what happened to his dad. The president knows that Sairoyi is a person with more will than others. His corporation is very afraid of people like Sairoyi, so they made a plan to destroy Sairoyi's Danbam Pub. The next day, Sairoyi went to the TV station to exchange the recording script. He suddenly met Jun-won, who was also there. He used his relationship to exclude Danbam Pub from that recording. Sairoyi suddenly realized that Sua had revealed this. Jun-won said that he would make him fail, but Sairoyi replied that he would cause his company to collapse. Because the recording session was cancelled, Sairoyi was very sad. Yiseo was by his side, encouraging and comforting him. The two then walked on the street and suddenly met Sua. But this time, Sairoyi coldly walked by, making her very sad. Unexpectedly, Yiseo then kindly told Sairoyi the truth. The person who called the police that day was not Sua. Upon hearing this, Sairoyi immediately ran to find Sua to apologize. After running for a while, he saw her at the bus stop. Sairoyi immediately took Sua's hand. He said that he would be determined to deal with the Jenga Group soon so that she would not have to suffer. At this moment, the bus arrived. The two of them parted ways. From here, after Sua left, Sairoyi immediately called a mysterious person who was monitoring Jenga Group stocks. This person reported that Sairoyi's shares were worth more than 10 billion won. Sairoyi immediately ordered to buy all of Jenga's shares. Hearing this news, the assistant rushed to inform the president. Sairoyi had bought a lot of Jenga's shares. It turned out Sairoyi bought shares 8 years ago, which was also when Jang Jun-won had a scandal that caused the shares to hit rock bottom at extremely low prices. Now, Sairoyi is the third largest shareholder of the Jenga Group. When he learned about this, the chairman was shocked. He laughed to the point of going crazy. He didn't expect Sairoyi to be so good. President Jang immediately went to Danbam Pub to meet Sairoyi. He thought Sairoyi was a chicken, but it turned out he was a fox. 8 years ago, he was using all of his father's insurance money to buy stocks blocks from the person who murdered his father. Both faces proved extremely dangerous. However, Ro-yi still welcomed him very thoughtfully. He gave orders for the chef to cook as deliciously as possible. Ro-yi personally brought the food to the table. The president suddenly asked him what was the purpose of buying his shares and why he bought so much. At this point, everyone was stunned because they knew Ro-yi had a lot of money. Of course, he could not say his intention to acquire Jenga Group. He lied that he bought it because he saw potential. President Jang and everyone enjoyed the food because it was delicious, so he ate it all at once. When finished eating, the chairman suddenly mentioned Ro-yi's father. He advised Ro-yi to give up and not confront him. He also threatened Ro-yi that if he continued, he would fail miserably. Hearing about his real father, Ro-yi could not hide his emotion. He did not hesitate to talk about his revenge plan. Ro-yi vowed to make Chairman Jang and Jun-won pay for killing his father. Ro-yi even shouted angrily. His words made the atmosphere extremely tense. Chairman Jang was angry and wanted to respond to the end. Yiseo now knew how reckless and talented Ro-yi was. Ro-yi also revealed that this was just the first step of the plan to take over Jenga Group, and his card was his friend Ho-jin, who helped him do everything while he was in prison. 6 Park He was residing at Choi Seung-kwon's house due to complications arising from the expansion of his business, which led to tax issues. Choi Seung-kwon proposed forming a joint stock company, prompting Ro-yi to convene with a group that ultimately decided to name the store chain Itaewon Class, with the company being called Ike Joint Stock Company. During this period, former police officer Oh Byung-hyun and his daughter visited regarding Ro-yi's past case. The officer left his daughter alone, who then chased after a cat and got lost. Fortunately, Kang Min-young found her and lent her a phone to call her father. Ro-yi and the officer retrieved the child, and with his police skills, the father quickly identified someone tailing them and confiscated his camera. This individual was revealed to be monitoring Kang Min-young, a ploy orchestrated by Chairman Jang Dee-hee. Chairman Jang Dee-hee, upon seeing the advertisement for Itaewon Class, acknowledged Jo Yiseo's talent, which intensified his concern over both Ro-yi and Yiseo. His secretary reported the exposure of their surveillance on Kang Min-young, but Dee-hee dismissed it, focusing instead on recruiting Yiseo. Oh Soo-ah was shocked upon hearing this. Simultaneously, the chairman learned that the former police officer was supplying food to Ro-yi and decided to bribe him. That night, Ro-yi met with Oh Soo-ah, confessing his feelings for her. The next morning, Yiseo threatened to quit if Ro-yi pursued a relationship with Soo-ah. Concurrently, Chairman Jang Dee-hee summoned the former police officer, offering him a lucrative contract to abandon Ro-yi and align with Jenga Group. The officer, now intent on setting a good example for his daughter, declined despite the tempting offer, expressing his belief in Danbam's potential to surpass Jenga. Dee-hee threatened him, implying harm to his daughter, but the officer countered by threatening to expose the case from 10 years ago, unsettling the chairman. Meanwhile, Jang Jun-won approached Jo Yiseo, inviting her to join Jenga Group with an attractive offer. Yiseo, feigning admiration, coaxed him into confessing details about the car crash that killed Ro-yi's father, secretly recording the conversation. When Jun-won realized he had been tricked, he tried to seize her phone, but Yiseo resisted. In a scuffle, she managed to throw hot coffee in his face and declared her resolve to protect Ro-yi. Jun-won retaliated by slapping her and attempting to steal the phone, but bystanders were distracted when he threw money into the air. Just as Jun-won was about to succeed, Ro-yi intervened. Seeing Yiseo injured, Ro-yi's anger flared, but Yiseo stopped him from falling into Jun-won's trap. The police arrived and arrested Jun-won. In gratitude, Ro-yi embraced Yiseo, marking a moment of happiness for her despite her pain. Yiseo then posted the recording online, causing a public outcry and a dramatic drop in Jenga Group stock. Chairman Jang Dee-hee, furious, physically reprimanded his son, Kang Min-young. Witnessing this, realized she could no longer serve such incompetence and approached Ro-yi. Yiseo suggested that the falling stock prices and internal turmoil presented an opportunity to dethrone Chairman Jang Dee-hee. However, they needed the former police officer's testimony regarding Jun-won's involvement in the car crash. The next morning, Ro-yi and Yiseo visited the former police officer's house, but found him missing. Kang Min-young discovered his daughter, who revealed her father had left due to guilt over the past case. Se-ro-yi, moved by their situation, decided to delay asking for his testimony. Upon returning, Yiseo outlined the second condition for taking down Chairman Jang D-hee, exposing his defense of Jun-won. Meanwhile, D-hee met with lawyers to strategize. Oh Soo-ah advised sending Jun-won to prison to save the company and prevent Kang Min-young's betrayal. Despite her wise counsel, D-hee chose to prioritize his son over the company, a decision Soo-ah quickly reported to Min-young and Se-ro-yi. Confident in their plan, Kang Min-young convened an internal meeting to propose Chairman Jang D-hee's dismissal, unaware she was falling into his trap. During the shareholders' meeting, D-hee confessed the truth about the past case and agreed to send his son to prison, undermining Min-young's plan. As Jun-won was being taken to surrender, he escaped and confronted his father at a press conference. Feeling betrayed, realizing their plan had failed, Se-ro-yi was despondent. D-hee called Min-young to mock her efforts, highlighting her underestimation of his cunning. Subsequently, Min-young was demoted, her spirit crushed. Now, Se-ro-yi remained their only hope. The trial concluded with Jun-won receiving a 7-year prison sentence for his father's murder. Despite this, D-hee remained unperturbed, valuing the company's survival above all. Se-ro-yi visited his father's grave, reflecting on the 11 years it took to bring his father's killer to justice. He offered a glass of wine, reminiscent of their last drink together, the bitterness mirroring his grief. Back at Danbam, Ma Hyun-yi decided to quit to claim his inheritance. While Jo Yi-seo hinted at giving Se-ro-yi a chance if he took over Junga, Oh Soo-ah announced that Jang D-hee had revoked all of Jun-won's shares, driving him to madness. Jang Jun-soo, eager to inherit Junga, pledged to follow his father's orders, promising to strengthen the company. Pleased with his ambition, D-hee tasked Soo-ah with training Jun-soo. At the restaurant, the chef underwent plastic surgery, and during a show preparation, Kim Tony accidentally added curry powder to a dish, quickly realizing his mistake and yelling in frustration. Unexpectedly, this mistake created a delicious new flavor. As a result, Danbam's curry dish won first prize, which helped raise Danbam's reputation very quickly. Investors came looking to expand the Danbam brand. This was a great opportunity to create a franchise. Jo Yi-seo naturally realized this was great. She compiled a book about the characteristics of Danbam, ready to invite investors into the franchise. Unexpectedly, Park Se-ro-yi thought now was not the time, while Jo Yi-seo said that having someone invest is a golden opportunity. If they open one by one, they will never catch up with Junga, resulting in a heated argument between the two. However, Choi Seung-kwon also saw Jo Yi-seo's plan as very correct. Investors were constantly calling to urge Jo Yi-seo. If she was slow, they would invest in another restaurant, causing Jo Yi-seo a huge headache. She dragged Park Se-ro-yi to the rooftop, nagging about opening a chain of restaurants. Upon hearing this, Park Se-ro-yi no longer hesitated. He decided to take a risk this time with Jo Yi-seo. The two of them were completely unaware that they had fallen into Chairman Jang D-hee's trap. They immediately came to meet that talented investor. He appreciated that Danbam had a very talented manager. Taking that opportunity, Park Se-ro-yi firmly offered 5 billion won for the franchise. Jo Yi-seo was very hesitant, but did not expect the investor to agree very quickly. This news became hot, thus attracting many other investors to call. The three people could not answer the phone on the first day. They received more than 10 billion won in investment. The number of people registering to open a shop reached more than 50. They immediately opened a representative office, both doing business and franchising training. In the evening, when the group returned, they suddenly saw an injured old lady. The group rushed her to the hospital for treatment. Unexpectedly, this was Kim Tony's grandmother. Kim Tony showed her a photo of his missing father, who turned out to be her son. She cried and said loudly that his father had passed away in a traffic accident many years ago. Kim Tony tearfully received his grandmother back. The next day, the food competition came to the second round. The restaurants were frantically cooking on the program. Ma Hyun-yi cooked the restaurant's signature soft tofu stew, and Janga cooked fermented soybean. Jang Jun-soo ate both dishes, so he knew Janga would lose. As expected, Danbam continued to win the contest. Everyone in Park Se-ro-yi's group couldn't hide their joy, while Oh Soo-ah's group was very depressed. After the competition, Park Se-ro-yi invited the two of them to eat. Oh Soo-ae took Park Se-ro-yi's arm and walked first. Jo Yi-seo was upset and came up to interrupt the two people. Everyone had so much fun drinking for a while that they wanted to play the truth game. Jo Yi-seo was unlucky enough to be the opening act. Jang Jun-soo asked if he won against Janga, would she love him because she promised. Jo Yi-seo had to agree to this. The next lucky person was Park Se-ro-yi. Choi Seung-kwon asked Park Se-ro-yi and Oh Soo-ah what their relationship was. Unexpectedly, Park Se-ro-yi said he liked her. The answer hurt Jo Yi-seo's heart. Jang Jun-soo suddenly asked what Park Se-ro-yi considered Jo Yi-seo to be. Sadly, the answer was a younger sister. Hearing this, Jo Yi-seo couldn't help but cry. She had sacrificed everything for him and now felt bitter. Feeling so embarrassed, Jo Yi-seo quickly stood up and left. Under Ma Hyun-ye's urging, Park Se-ro-yi quickly stood up and chased Jo Yi-seo. Jo Yi-seo was hurt and couldn't hide her heart anymore. With tears in her eyes, she kept saying, I love you. I love you more than anything in the world. In the past 2 years, I have given up everything to bet on you, including dropping out of college and leaving my mother at home. Thinking Park Se-ro-yi was easy to touch and would accept her love, Jo Yi-seo unexpectedly only received a harsh rejection, both heartbroken and humiliated. In the end, Jo Yi-seo left in the cold, snowy winter. The person she promised to protect with her whole life was now cruel to her again. Jo Yi-seo was in extreme pain, sitting in the middle of the street, crying and unable to stop. Returning to Janga Company, the president was very angry because they lost 2 rounds of the cooking competition in a row. He ordered that if they lost in the final round, Jang Jun-soo would definitely never have the right to inherit. Listening to this, Jang Jun-soo immediately asked his father to give him the program. He affirmed that he would win the final round. After the contest, Danbam was more crowded than before, but Jo Yi-seo decided to take a break for a while so that Park Se-ro-yi could clearly understand what true feelings are. Knowing that Jo Yi-seo quit her job, Jang Jun-soo quickly informed his father. President Jang De-hee realized this was a golden opportunity. Indeed, the next morning when Park Se-ro-yi came to the office, there was no one. All the investors simultaneously texted to withdraw their capital, causing the entire Park Se-ro-yi group to fall into crisis. They had spent more than 1 billion won on the recent campaign. It turned out that the other investor was Chairman Jang De-hee, who had installed this trick to deceive Danbam. 50 store owners came to Danbam to demand compensation. They were extremely angry with Park Se-ro-yi because everyone lost money to open a restaurant. Oh Soo-ah followed the president's order to bring a vase of flowers with a message congratulating Park Se-ro-yi on returning to the Golden Stream. Reading this sentence made Park Se-ro-yi angrily shout. He said that they could cancel the contract if they wanted. He would have enough money to compensate everyone, but the most important business is trust. So, if they trust him, please continue to support. His words certainly appeased the store owners. But now where would the money come from to continue? Park Se-ro-yi did not know. Oh Soo-ah advised Park Se-ro-yi to run away and live happily with her. While Jo Yi-seo wanted to give up, Jo Yi-seo called and encouraged him, promising to fight with Park Se-ro-yi to the end. As expected, she regained Park Se-ro-yi's spirit. The next day, Jo Yi-seo returned to work. The important thing right now was to find a new investor. According to the list, they saw a 70-year-old real estate tycoon. Surprisingly, that was Kim Tony's grandmother. She was even an enemy. The godmother helped President Jang De-hee develop the old lady. She then went to Danbam with director Kang Min-young. She asked if he needed any help. Unexpectedly, Park Se-ro-yi was stubborn and did not want to ask for her help. The grandmother was angry and scolded him for having too much pride and not knowing how to humble himself. She said he would fail because of that stubbornness. Then she angrily stood up and left. Director Kang Min-young was disappointed with Park Se-ro-yi, so he also left. In the evening, Park Se-ro-yi looked back at the staff who were working hard day and night. He understood that they were suffering because of his high pride. Thinking of this, he decided to call Kim Tony to make an appointment to meet his grandmother. Kim Tony informed him that she had arrived on Jeju Island. Park Se-ro-yi immediately called her. Unexpectedly, the grandmother next to her grabbed the phone and started talking. She kept exclaiming that Park Se-ro-yi was an idiot. Park Se-ro-yi asked her to invest. but she made a condition that they must win the final round of the best restaurant contest. Suroi promised he would definitely win this final round. But life is not like a dream. Jun-soo here also wants to win the contest to become the heir. He knows Danbam won the previous 2 rounds thanks to Chef Hyun-ye. So suddenly a dirty plan came up in his heart. Jang Jun-won discussed with Soo-ah that they would announce that Chef Hyun-ye is transgender the next day. Suroi, along with Chef Hyun-ye, went to the competition. Indeed, the news of Hyun-ye's transgender identity was all over the internet. Seung-kwon quickly showed this news to the 2 people. Everyone in the studio was talking about this, making Hyun-ye feel offended, so she turned around and left. Of course, Jang Jun-won was the one who bribed the journalist to publish this article. Soo-ah was surprised to see Jang Jun-won not ignore any trick. On this side, Hyun-ye ran into the women's restroom, but was chased away. Then Suroi found her back in the men's restroom. He confided from the bottom of his heart to give her courage. If you give up, everyone will trample on you even more. You have to win the contest to win the hatred in everyone's hearts. Listening to these words, Hyun-ye regained her confidence. Inside the studio, thinking Hyun-ye gave up, Jang Jun-won asked the program to start without Danbam participating. But suddenly Hyun-ye opened the door and walked in with a very confident look. Jang Jun-won started to feel dizzy. The program still continued filming with Hyun-ye's return. Living up to everyone's expectation, she created the ultimate dish. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the results. The judges declared Hyun-ye the final winner. An indescribable surge of happiness filled the room. Hyun-ye's spectacular return helped Danbam win. Strangely, Chairman Jang knew his son was playing tricks on Hyun-ye, but did not scold him. Instead, he praised his son for using tricks, saying just a bigger ambition is enough to inherit. At this moment, Yeseo came to the company and hit Jun-soo. She hoped he would regain consciousness, but Jun-soo had now truly become evil. As long as he could win Jang Ga's love, he was willing to do anything. Yeseo also felt helpless against this jerk. She ran back to meet Suroi. It was true that only Suroi could bring her happiness. Because they won the contest, they went to meet the grandmother to sign an investment contract. This time, Suroi was also very determined. He wanted to develop the restaurant to reach the whole world, not just Korea. The news that Danbam received an investment of 30 billion won flooded the internet, making Jun-soo sad. He asked how Soo-ah made Suroi collapse. In his heart, there was now only one thing: to harm Suroi. His father also realized this, so he agreed to let him attend the leadership meeting. He directly announced to everyone that Jang Jun-won would be the heir to Jang Ga. Thanks to his despicable tricks, Jun-soo was quickly highly appreciated. The news of Jun-soo's inheritance in the newspaper made his brother in prison restless. He frantically practiced to one day return. Time has passed 4 years. Suroi's eye company has grown extremely strong, and Yeseo has also become extremely beautiful. Suroi is now the general director of dozens of small companies. During the meeting, the leaders presented many problems that needed to be solved. Unexpectedly, Yeseo used her intelligence in just a few words to help the other directors agree. Jun-soo also returned after 4 years of studying abroad. He confidently stood in front of the board of directors to present his plan. He said he would buy a cheap road, upgrade it like Iriwen, push up the land price, and then sell it all to get rid of the goods. This deal is expected to earn at least a few hundred billion won. The chairman immediately agreed after hearing it. This showed that Jang Jun-won had a very strategic vision. Mr. Jang appointed him to destroy Ike's corporation and then inherit. At this time, his eldest son Jang Jun-won was also released from prison. But Chairman Jang's condition was very bad at this time. He often got dizzy and fainted. The doctor said that the chairman had terminal pancreatic cancer. The cruel Jun-soo only wanted his father to die so he could inherit. Jang Jun-won, after being released from prison, visited his father. 4 years of practice helped him become calm. Jun-soo bluntly told his father before he died to choose an heir, because he knew he had an advantage over his older brother. But Jang Jun-won did not give up. He said that in the past 4 years, he had memorized all of his father's ideals and said that Jang Ga must be given to him. Over here, Suroi was meeting Soo-ah for dinner, but Ho Jin called urgently, so he had to rush to leave. When he got there, he scolded Suroi for being so stupid. He is the president of Ike, but is dating the director of a rival company. Have you forgotten about your father's feud? It turns out Ho Jin is worried because Jang Jun-won has been released from prison. Moreover, President Jang only had a few more months to live. Hearing this, Suroi couldn't believe his ears. He immediately picked up the phone and called Chairman Jang. He said, "I really don't want you to die. You have to live to compete with me." It's interesting that the only person who wants the president to continue to live is Suroi. The words made Chairman Jang laugh happily. Suroi then returned to the company and saw Yiseo sleeping tiredly on the table. He immediately took off his jacket and put it on her. Suddenly waking up, Yiseo felt very touched, and Suroi suddenly felt confused. The next morning, everyone had a meeting to discuss Jang Ga's inheritance. If Jang Jun-won becomes the chairman on a stretcher, it will be dangerous for them, so it is very necessary for them to stop this. Yiseo comes up with a plan. First, they must remove Jun-soo as CEO, then put her in his place because Yiseo also has shares. The plan was perfect, and everyone immediately agreed. When only Suroi and Yiseo were left to discuss the plan, Soo-ah suddenly called to invite Suroi to dinner. But Suroi refused because he was too busy. Yiseo saw that and said some jealous words. Unexpectedly, Suroi was upset and emphasized that he did not consider her a woman. This hurt Yiseo greatly. Seeing Yiseo sad, Suroi suddenly felt guilty but did not admit it in front of her. Yiseo immediately understood after hearing that this proved that he had begun to have feelings for her. On this side, Chairman Jang also knew about Suroi's group's plan. He immediately thought of a way to deal with the deposed director. Yiseo went to meet the shareholders of Jang Ga Group every day. She devoted all her energy to convincing them to take her side, realizing that Yiseo was so good. Most of them really liked it, but because she worked so hard, her nose bled. While Yiseo was working hard, Suroi was going to meet Soo-ah. She asked him if he still liked her. At this time, Yiseo walked in and saw the two people. She was so disappointed in Suroi and immediately left. Suroi wanted to chase her, but Soo-ah selfishly held him back. Only later did Suroi stand up to chase, but it was too late. Yiseo sadly returned home to her mother. The following day, the shareholders' meeting of Jang Ga Group convened. Despite her illness, Yiseo attended but eventually fainted from exhaustion. Consequently, her appointment as CEO was rejected, and Chairman Jang's faction prevailed. Undeterred, Suroi rushed to the hospital to visit Yiseo. Upon her recovery, she devised a plan B. However, Suroi, noticing her overexertion, sternly advised her to rest or face termination. After delivering this ultimatum, Suroi departed. Seung-kwan, witnessing this, pursued Suroi, chastising him for his perceived blindness and mistakes reminiscent of Soo-ah. These remarks prompted Suroi to reflect. Noticing a necklace Yiseo admired, he purchased it for her but hesitated to present it, remaining outside her room. Meanwhile, Jun-won approached a gang leader, offering a substantial sum to target Suroi's group. Suroi, now overseeing Yiseo's responsibility, discovered her diary and illustrations, realizing her affection for him. This revelation made him aware of his own feelings for her. Suroi hastened to the hospital to confess his love. Concurrently, Yiseo found the necklace Suroi had left, which made her realize his affection. At this moment, a fake doctor entered, claiming it was time for an injection. Upon Suroi's arrival, he found the room in disarray and received an anonymous message with a picture of the kidnapped Yiseo, instructing him to come alone for her rescue. Suroi drove frantically to the designated location, with Jun-soo following after sensing trouble. At the rendezvous point in a forested area, Jun-won orchestrated a plot to harm both Suroi and Jun-soo, instructing a car to hit the latter. Suroi intervened, pushing Jun-soo to safety, but falling down a slope himself. In his dire state, Suroi thought of Yiseo, regretting his unexpressed love. Jun-won, realizing the severity of the situation, called for an ambulance, yet still ordered an assassination attempt on Suroi. Jun-soo managed to alert Seung-kwan before being knocked unconscious and confined with Yiseo. Believing Suroi dead, the gang retreated upon the ambulance's arrival. Suroi was taken to the hospital in critical condition. His friends were deeply concerned, especially with Yiseo's whereabouts unknown. The former police officer identified the situation as a kidnapping from surveillance footage. Suroi's phone still received anonymous messages, creating a dilemma about involving the police. Seung-kwan resolved to confront the culprits himself. Inside the hideout, Jun-won tormented Yiseo and Jun-soo. Yiseo feigned fear, but regained composure and began untying herself once Jun-won left. Simultaneously, Seung-kwan negotiated with the gang leader, reminding him of their shared prison time with Suroi. When talks failed, he contacted the police, successfully apprehending the criminals. By morning, Yiseo freed Jun-soo, and they planned their escape. In the hospital, Suroi, in a coma, dreamt of his deceased father. On a bridge between life and death, his father invited him to cross over. Soroi, however, expressed his obligation to Yuseo and chose to live, waking from his coma with renewed determination but profound sorrow over his father's loss. June 1, conversely, called his father, Chairman Jang, to lament his action. Blaming his father for his downfall, he revealed the hostages' location, challenging his father to rescue them. This revelation devastated Chairman Jang, a consequence of his own past teaching. June 1 returned to the hideout, where Jun Soo ambushed him. Yuseo intervened to prevent further violence, and they attempted to flee. However, their escape was thwarted by gangsters. Soroi, upon waking, resolved to rescue Yuseo. Despite knowing the risks, declaring his love for Yuseo, he confronted Chairman Jang, demanding the hostage's location. In a final act of humility, Soroi knelt before the chairman, who then revealed the location, albeit mockingly. At the hideout, the gangsters prepared to kill Yuseo and Jun-soo. Yuseo grabbed a shovel, and Jun-soo picked up an iron bar. Yuseo initiated a countdown to attack, but ultimately fled, leaving Jun-soo to fend off the attackers. Jun-soo's loyalty to Yuseo drove him to fight until June 1 intervened. Sparing his brother, the gang pursued Yuseo, who fled into a field. As their car approached her, Soroi arrived, colliding with the gangster's vehicle. Yuseo, overjoyed, embraced Soroi. Despite Soroi's plea for leniency from the gang leader, the latter was unyielding. Seung-kwan then stayed behind to cover their escape, leaving only the boss to fight fiercely. June 1 jumped into the car to chase Soroi. After the two people ran for a while, Soroi was in pain and couldn't run. He stopped and quickly said he loved Yuseo. Just as the two of them hugged each other in the middle of the street, June 1 accelerated the car and drove towards them. Soroi got angry and took a brick and threw it straight at the car, forcing him to stop. Soroi told Yuseo to go ahead and report to the police, and he himself would stay and fight June 1. June 1's 4 years of training in prison made him different now, and Soroi, exhausted after the incident, was beaten badly by June 1. The boss and his juniors were defeated by Seung-kwan, but the honest guy spared his life, only hoping the boss would become a good person. On this side, Soroi thought he was dead, but the thought of saving Yuseo gave him more strength. Soroi stood up again, making June 1 also admire him. He used all his strength to defeat June 1, but he himself collapsed due to exhaustion. Just then, Yuseo returned with the police. The two happily hugged each other. The next morning, Soo-ah submitted all evidence of Jangga's crimes to the police immediately. Chairman Jang's house was ransacked and investigated for embezzlement and bribery. Chairman Jang wanted to admit all the blame because he was about to die anyway, but the secretary said the partner restaurants all wanted to cancel their contracts. This situation caused Jangga to go bankrupt and have to sell the company. Chairman Jang heard this and panicked because he was about to lose everything. He asked for help everywhere, but could not find any. The chairman bitterly realized that now only Soroi could save him. June 1 was in prison on charges of attempted murder and had a criminal record that put him in prison for life. Soroi, on the other hand, woke up in the hospital. The first thing he did was hug the person he loved. But Yuseo's mother was extremely angry after knowing everything, so she scolded Soroi for a while at the hospital. Unexpectedly, Soroi only said, "I'm sorry," which made Yuseo's mother happy, and Yuseo was equally happy. They happily left the hospital to go home together, but as soon as they arrived at the restaurant, they saw President Jang came there to meet him. So, Soroi personally went into the kitchen, personally brought up the dish, and invited President Jang to enjoy it. The taste was so delicious that it made him have a different view of Soroi's abilities. Soroi then announced that he would merge Jangga into his company while removing the name Jangga permanently. President Jang, with an extremely sad face, suddenly stood up, knelt down, and sincerely apologized to Soroi. He had done evil deeds all his life, but at the last moment, he turned around. He asked Soroi to forgive this poor old man and then bowed his head to the ground. Soroi had hoped that Chairman Jang would kneel down, but now he was not happy at all. He was moved to forgive him for everything, but the merger would still have to proceed. The chairman, who started a business with empty hands and built a large corporation, in the end, lost everything because he had no heart. heart. Then, the meeting to merge Janga into Suroi's company was held. Suroi naturally held the position of president and received complete support from the shareholders. Junsu, after Suroi's life-saving grace, respected Suroi even more. He gave up his ambition from then on and took a new path. Suroi went from being a young man with nothing, having his father assassinated, and losing while he was in prison, to achieving happiness and wealth with a good heart and an unyielding will. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below with your suggestions for future videos, any questions you have, or just to say hi. Your feedback is super important to us and helps us create better content for you. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends, family, and on social media. It really makes a big difference and helps our community grow. You can follow us on Insert your social media handles for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.